Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Cinco de Mayo, the first Friday in May 2023. I am Delbridge, Benchmark Realty, Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and this is your status chat. This week we're going to look at a little bit of the past and some of the present to try to guesstimate what might happen in the future. But we're also going to see a little bit of bad tidings, and then I'll show you why we're probably not going to see that same thing here. Let's get to it. Well, I have for you 6 tabs open today, and I hope not to take all day long to get this out. So let's go ahead and get over to that first tab. So here we are. Now this is from Mike Delbridge. This is, if you'll notice, a 2022. It's a pre-Thanksgiving 2022 post, but what it's looking at is Zillow offers an open door, and we'll talk just real briefly about that, and we'll just say what we've got to say. We'll notice that the difference between the year over year, this is 21, 22, and we'll look at the verses down here. Now it says Open Doors net loss of $928 million for the first quarter is more than double Zillow's offers net loss of $422 million in quarter 3 of last year. But there was something that happened last year, do you recall? Yes, I believe we find out that Zillow, looking ahead, since they are the powerhouse in data. If you like this content, please go to calldeltosell.com, find the tab that says on YouTube, click it, and it'll open up a page of QR codes. There you can use a smartphone to scan and get to the YouTube page, or you can just mouse over and click it on a PC. There you'll be able to subscribe to this little button over here and click the notification bell so that YouTube will notify you when each Friday's blog has been uploaded. Thank you. They were able to maybe see the canary in the cage before the penny dropped. How you like those things? So we can see that Open Door being in blue, it had a loss at that time of nearly $1 billion, because that'd be what 1,000 millions are, right? And then we see that we also had 21 versus 22. So we see some changes there, 21, Zillow in 21. Here we go. So pull it on down. We should have a nice little graph on this. Here we go. So all we're going to pull from this is we see that Zillow back in 21 said, whoops, this looks like we see something going to happen. So they just exited iBuying, that whole cut out the middleman, the real estate professional. We're going to do it through computers and let people help themselves. That really didn't go so well. Now, why were they doing positive here and then bail? What was it they potentially saw? We don't really know. They don't really tell us all the deep, dark secrets. But if we go back into now quarter 1 of 22, this is last year, this is a year ago, we see that they both were positive until third quarter 22, when unfortunately Open Door took a big hit. And this is their expectation. I think this may be his speculation, but that's all we need to look at from Mike Delbridge up here. November of 2022, so that's nearing of last year. Open Door announces, let's pull this down, first quarter 2023 financial results. Now, if you'll notice this down here, this is dated yesterday right here, Thursday, May 4th, so this is current. Let's see what happened since then. Open Door Technology printed this. This is from them. This is their data. Let's see what they have to say. Now, we'll skip the fluff at the top and get down here to the highlights, because we are going to be short of time if we want to get this in there. Revenue of $3.1 billion, first quarter 2023, down 39% versus first quarter 22 with 8,274 homes. That's only 8,000 homes sold. That would be pretty well much nationwide. Open Doors, pretty well much coast to coast, water to water, and border to border. And it says it's down 35%. Versus first quarter of 2022. I want you to make a note of that. This is one of those big investors, and I want you to notice that they are down 35%. Now, they are positive because they do have revenue. They do have revenue but it is down from where they were. Gross profit of $170 million. That's positive, which reflects an inventory valuation adjustment of homes. But we see the gross margin of 5.4% versus 10.4%. So they're making half as much money on the margin, but they're still positive. They are positive this year. Net loss of income of $101 million versus $28 million. So that's 28 does not have these little brackets, so that means that's negative. 28 was positive, so that's about $128 million swing there. Adjusted net loss was $409 million versus $99. loss or profit of 241. That would be a loss, contribution of 241 loss versus 332 million. That's a big swing. Now we can go through the rest of these, but we're just going to go ahead and skip forward to the next tab. Now this one is from National Mortgage News, which is a subscription service, and you see it's telling me to subscribe. I ran out of my trial and went to alternate information sources. It's not a bad place, because it uses things like CoreLogic and pretty helpful information. But we're just going to roll right down here to see this. This is April 21st of 2023. That's in the first quarter. Real estate investors selling more homes at a loss. So we should expect to see some positive revenue, but perhaps not the big knockout gains that we saw. And they're here is an important factor. Approximately 13.5% of homes offloaded by investors, that's their word, offloaded by investors in March, sold for less than what they originally paid. So that's making it, we're already halfway into this little conversation. It sounds like we have something horrible coming. In just a second, I'll explain to you why that's not true. Now, it also talks about while the number represents a decrease of 14.5% reported in February, so they're doing better in March than they were in February, but they're still not where they were in their heyday. Now let's hop over here to Redfin. Redfin's another one. Seattle Redfin Corporation on Thursday. This is 18 hours ago. I want you to notice this. This is some of that newer news. Seattle AP had 60.8 million loss in the first quarter. The Seattle-based company said it had a loss of 55 cents per share. Well, I mean, we've got some turmoil in the mortgage rate, so we can expect some of that. Here we have, because we're talking about Redfin, it talks about here Inman, which is an industry news source. Redfin narrows losses, revenue falls 45% in the first 3 months. So they're doing better, but they're doing still not as good as they should. And why is that, perhaps? Well, let's just talk about that. Because they were heavily invested in speculation in the sharp spiking markets. They went in deep. We just saw at the first part of this, that first tab, we saw that Zillow had some kind of forethought, second sight, whatever you want to call it. They said, yeah, we're getting out of this business. We're getting out of this. It's not going to work for us. These algorithms are not doing what the people could do. Whatever it was, they decided to bail, and they did. And if you go back to when that was announced a year ago, more than a year ago, you'll see me telling you, well, with their data collection, because they see all those searches, they see what all those searches, where they're looking, when they're looking, what they're looking for. They saw something that they really didn't explain to the rest of us in the rest of the world, but they bailed. And Redfin and several other big investor groups simply said, well, we're going to buy up more market share because we want more control of the market. Well, how did that work out? Again, we've kind of already seen some of that, and I'll leave you to draw your own conclusion. I won't force anything upon you. But here it talks about we're doing better, but it looks like we're still losing by this expression. Redfin narrows losses. So they're not losing as much, but they're still losing. Falls 45% in the first 3 quarters. First quarter loss, down here, Yahoo Finance. First quarter losses, tops revenue estimates. So revenue's better, but we still have some losses. We're done with Redfin for today. What about this other large giant? Anywhere Real Estate. There are actually several famous name companies you'll know. I won't get into that, but what is the date on this? This is May 3rd, day before yesterday, 2023, and this is news provided by Anywhere Real Estate. So I've already brought you one that was brought from one company, Redfin. Now we have the other one we're going to bring to you from Anywhere. And what does its highlights say first quarter? Let me slide this up. Generated revenue of $1.1 billion. Well, that's pretty significant. A decrease of 31% year over year. Now, what was it we saw on Open Doors? They were in the 30s as well, were we not? So it looks like some of these big companies are taking some huge hits. Now, it looks like we have impacted by home sale transaction volume decreases by 31%. When we look at what we're doing here in Middle Tennessee in our group, we're not down quite 31%. We're a little better off. Reported net loss of $138 million, adjusted net loss from $106 million. The operating EBITDA loss of $52 million, a decrease of $121 million year over year. So they're narrowing their losses. So they're getting back. They're headed back. Looks like these companies are headed back to the black. Everything getting better. Free cash flow of negative $120 million versus negative $275 million. So they're still losing money, but they're not bleeding as badly. Now, if we go down here towards some of the stock type of information, Operating EBITDA is down 52. They were up 69 in 2022, but they were down 121 as the change. So that's not good, but we're doing better. Now, let me get to the good point. All of that sounds awfully, awfully bad. And I know some of you out there are rubbing your little paws together and like we're going to have another 2008 here in Middle Tennessee and I'm going to be able to scarf up a great bargain at pennies on the dollar. Well, I don't really see that manifesting itself just yet, at least not from these numbers. We could have discussed some of the Chairman Powell drama we had earlier this week, but I have some posts on Facebook if you want to find the benchmark Del Delbridge page versus the private page. So let's look at how we're doing compared to the rest of the nation. Here we are. Where are we at? We're at Benchmark Realty. Guess whose page this is? It happens to be my page because we have our MLS at a glance. We recognize it. Now this is for 3-2s, I believe. No, this one actually is not. This is the entire, it's on the individuals that are for 3-bedroom, 2 baths. And we're looking at this one. Of course, there's my happy little name. And what are we seeing on the price index? Well, we see that we were in June of 2022. The entire MLS was down just a little bit on the median, right? But we're headed back up. Do you see us heading back up? What were we doing on new listings? Well, we were building up, and we peaked down as we go into the cold weather, and we started back up. What are we doing on homes for sale? Numbers are falling, which means our inventory is falling a little bit in our immediate MLS area. This is across the Middle Tennessee MLS. Pull this up. Supply of homes. Well, they're holding fairly steady, even though we were seeing that loss of inventory, because we are slowing down just a tad. Look at the median days on market. We peaked in January when it was cold. Remember, it's harder to sell a home when people are just uncomfortable running from door to door. But we see as we come down to April of this year, which was the first quarter, we're back down to 12 days. Dollar volume of closed sales going back up. We are trending back up. Pending sales, we are trending back up. We're trending back up. So we're right about at that blue line, and that would be 13.6. So let's go over here, find where that was 14.106. So we're about where we were 2 years ago in pending sales volume. Not too bad, not too shabby. Closed sales is also going back up. And here is a big one that people really should pay attention to. We did see that big rise back in 2022, and we saw it come down a little bit, but what's happening since January? We're back on the rise. So what does that tell you? Well, it tells you need to call Del to sell. Right down here, you've got my contact information. You need to make use of me while I'm here and available for you, because that's what I am here for. So what does that tell you? We just read all of this bad news and saw that all that losing by those corporate investing types, these big wigs who were speculating and driving the prices up. We see, well, for most part, they tend to be in the fast-moving markets, the premier markets, the big blue cities where housing grows real fast. And we see that they've taken a big hit where we are in Middle Tennessee, and we do have a big blue city of Metro Davidson County. But we see through the overall area, we're doing pretty good. We're not doing like the rest of them, are we? So what do you say we wrap this show up? Hello, I'm Del Delbridge of Benchmark Realty, Murfreesboro, Tennessee. If you are currently unrepresented and would like to know how to compare up to 3 properties side by side and room by room, then go over to my new YouTube channel. Call Del to sell. That's 1 L and Del, no spaces. Watch the demo on Real Scout, and then call me and we'll set up your exclusive ad-free account today. Now we got all of that out, let's look at our numbers because we do these every week. Last week, 4/28/23. We had 16,354 in the opportunities. That was up over the previous period. 4334 in the under contract still showing. They also were up, and we tipped up to 27%, the ratio but of those two numbers. This week, Cinco de Mayo 2023, 5/5/23, we see we had 16,818 which was down a tad over the previous period, but not significantly. And we see that we had 4357, which is in the under contract still showing. That's up just by what is that? 3 units. So that's essentially the same, but technically it's up a little bit. And the ratio between those did not change from the previous period at 27%. So there you have it. That's why it's very important, I think. The purpose of this is to show you why you need a local touchstone. You need somebody local to help you, because when we look at some of these numbers that come across that real estate's down and they're losing money, some of them are losing money, but a lot less money than they were losing before. And so some of this you've got to expect to get better. because if I was running a business and I knew I was going to have a quarter of loss, I might want to shed some of my worst losses all in that same quarter so that they don't drag down my next quarter. So we are doing a little bit better, I think. But how do we look when you went to my website in the MLS? Well, we look like we're actually going pretty good. We're increasing back to kind of an abnormal market perhaps, but we're back to doing fairly well. And you need to get started if you plan on making the change, because if mortgage rates continue up, if you lock in now, they can go up and you've played it safe. If they turn around and they reverse and they go downhill, well, then you can then refi when it then is hitting your break-even point. You can go do that a little bit later. What is waiting around going to do for you except create anxiety? So that's it. We appreciate you watching. See us next week.